me.
For the last topic of the day, it's actually about one person, Shawn Layden,
Back in
our
the
man,
news.
our boy. The guy who was used to be the head chairman of Sony PlayStation, and he was talking about some things, about like his experience, being the chairman of PlayStation, and just in general about how things were working and whatnot. And a lot of the things he was saying, we seem to both agree on, and then kind of expound on that. It makes total sense, right? So this article that we found, that Ray actually found off of gamesindustry.biz, we'll probably try to see if we can drop it down in the link below. So he was essentially talking about how things go with the consoles in general. He was stating that the number of gamers in the world has not increased since like the 1990s or so, when games first started coming out. They've pretty much stayed the same.
About 250 million.
Yeah, obviously, people stop playing, but new people come in. So it's just a rotation of life, the circle of life.
There's
But
no
it's
growth.
the same amount of players. It's just not like a super influx where it's like, oh, this year was booming and we have way more people playing video games in general than ever before. And then he was also talking about how the way things are going now, with there no longer being all of these small studios, that they're just getting gobbled up by these bigger entities and just becoming larger entities. And now it's down to like a handful of these companies, that are producing games, and they're just producing the same type of games. They're not really trying to be extremely innovative, right? I mean, that's from the moment that I started playing games, and I'm sure you started playing games, we've noticed that the more unique games are the indie studios.
Right.
Those are the ones with the people who are thinking completely outside of the box. Like
the
stuff
Strays
you've
of the
never
world.
seen before. The
Yeah.
Strays, yeah. Different things like that. The Fez, the Forager, different games that are just like, wow,
Moonlighters.
where did this come?
This is
Moonlighter,
cool, right?
Stuff like that,
Hades,
Death Store,
right?
stuff like that,
Yeah.
So now you have all of these duplicates, it's like every other day we see a new battle royale coming out, or a new shooter, a first person shooter, Twitch shooter, or something like that. The same types of games. We see all of these games, all these old IPs that they're not making another advancement in the
Right.
story. They're just redoing it. All these remakes, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like,
Right.
damn, all right, bringing Diablo 2, and just juicing up the graphics and stuff like that, and then re-releasing it out to everybody, and expecting them to pay full price for it. Taking Demon Souls, remaking it, then dropping it on a new console, and you're paying full price for it.
Yeah, that was his point, right? That the gamer base hasn't changed. They're just finding ways to get that base to spend more money.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, the fact that you have, these new consoles, but they don't have new things to play on them. It's all the stuff that you could have played on the other one, but, it's new.
Yeah,
It's
Shawn Layden has been preaching this for like a while, because another thing interesting that he said in this article was, he said that with each new console generation, the cost of making the games doubles.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, because, he was like the magic behind the PS4 generation, and we love the PS4 generation, right?
Right.
A lot of people do. And that carried over to PS5, which is why I think there's a lot of hype for the PS5 as well, because the PS4 was so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not there anymore, but he said that in the PS4 generation, it cost games for between $100 and $150 million to make. So we're talking like blockbuster movie budgets, right? He's thinking that means that the PS5 generation is going to be exceeding $200 million, like from $100 million to $200 million to make a game. And he's like, what is $10 more on a game going to do? Like, there's a problem here. Games are getting too long, too large, too big. He'd rather go back to a great game, but like smaller in length, not necessarily like raising prices, but like changing the way the games look. So instead of trying to squeeze more out of you, change the way the games look. Make them smaller, more bite-sized. Don't make them cost so much. And then you won't have like this panic right? To make as much money as you can,
Right.
loot box you to death, right? All these things these games do. There's this big mad panic, right? To make as much money as they can on you. And I agree, you know, like, I don't know if it's because we're getting older. I really don't know necessarily what it is, but I like the innocence of the world. The 10, 12-hour games. The Death's Door was like maybe 8 to 10 hours. I feel really satisfied. After I've played about 10 to 12 hours, I feel like, okay, I've really am satisfied with this game. I'm kind of ready, though, to kind of move on, to try something else. I feel ready, you know?
I sort of agree with that. I mean, I can definitely attest that, like, playing games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and like Days Gone, it's like you have to be a certain type of fan to try to 100% the game. If you made a game that has about,
50
20,
hours.
20 hours of story, and then there's about 80 or 70 more hours of side story stuff, there's not a lot of people that will do the side story stuff. They might just be focused mainly on the main story, and then they finish that. So if you created 12 hours of main story, but you got 50 hours worth of excess in the game,
exploration,
I might not ever
quests,
see it. I mean, one of the greatest examples I could give is God damn it, Zelda. What's the one for the Switch?
Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild, yeah. So I played it. I played that game, and I might have put like, a good 10 hours or so in that game. But there's so much landscape that I'd never even touched because it didn't matter. Like, the story progressed to this area. I had to get to this area to get to there. Like, you know what I mean? I get having the side stuff and then being able to do that. But I would say if you had that same, a smaller map that just covered the areas that you needed to touch, but there was more minute details in those areas of things to discover, you could still pull out the same amount of hours, with just a shorter amount of landscape, but you've just got more high detail in there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you just populating more items in different crevices and stuff like that, so that every nook and cranny I can search and find something in this game.
Or even just somehow link some of those side missions to the main story, and you can squeeze out that 15-hour game. Like, if you're like I agree, like, if you're able to make a game that's like 15, 20 hours of a campaign, and you somehow have 30 to 40 hours additional content with like side missions and stuff, then it shouldn't be a problem for you to get a great 15-hour campaign. Like you said, condense down some of that great stuff into smaller bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a really great game. And like I said, with my age or whatever, like, it does. I feel like the same way. I feel like I'm really excited about a game for like the first 10 to 12 hours. And then my excitement wanes. Like, I may never even see the end now. Like, maybe, like, even with, I think Valhalla's a great example. I'm in Valhalla, I'm following the main campaign. Something cool strikes my attention in the distance, and so I go and do a side thing, and then I do another side thing. And I've experienced what this game is pretty much in its entirety through the side missions. And because I've gobbled up what this game has to offer, I'm like full of it now. And now the story, the story in and of itself isn't even as interesting to me anymore because I've already gobbled up the experience of playing in the side missions.
Right.
Maybe just make it.
So now I'm not as enthusiastic to finish.
I'm not as enthusiastic to finish the
game.
That's
I
my
have
point.
not finished Valhalla.
Me neither.
It's kind of like,
and I put probably 25, 30 hours in that game.
Yeah, and it's a great game. It's a fun game, but it's just like I go in there and then it's, the intrigue of finding something else or, what's this over here or whatever. And then I never get done and I just kind of want to finish the story. So then I have to put on blinders and focus mainly on the story and just say, I'm not going to check there because I want to keep on the story.
Okay,
and
I'm done. I'm just going to the story.
Everything that the developers threw out in there because I've been in the dang game so long and I want to just go with the story. I mean, there's those people that want to just 100% the game, and I get the challenge, you know what I mean? But maybe you could have just like slid everything inward more and added more difficulties to get stuff underground more or something like that. Yeah, more puzzles, but kept it here so that it was more streamlined. Like, You know, that's one of the issues, right? Is it's so big and widespread. Like you end up having to go over here for something, and then there's like a couple of more things that kind of lead you out further and further away from the
and now
main
you're
line
full
of the story.
on it. You're full on
you're
it.
going out that way, and then you're like, damn, I gotta reel it in and get back over here on this path.
Exactly.
You know, to go for it. You know, so
Like,
if they had everything just in the main path, you could
That's
spend
what I'm
all
saying.
that time, and you wouldn't feel.
I
Like
just
you're
feel
veering
like
off
I'm
of the
veering
course
so
too
much when I do side missions, and I don't want to get full off side missions and never see the end. I remember there was like a question some journalist or whatever like was talking about posing, like because you know like Rockstar games, like a lot of these games feel this way, and they're like it makes you wonder how do these developers feel. Because you can look at like completion rates and like when only like 15% of the player base even finish your game. Like how do you feel when like only 15% of the people who bought your game even saw how it ended? You know, like that's true. Like when the game gets to be like so big and massive like that, no one's finishing it. So what's fascinating to
me, you kind
me,
of treat those games as if like, oh, this is a game I'm just going to play for like a long ass time. Like this is an 8-month game. It's not like
right. It's like over the course of a life, like over the next
like,
year.
I know eventually when I don't have anything else to play, I'm just gonna come back to that game
Right.
and then continue to finish it off. And I'll stop and then I'll go off and do something else and I can come back and finish it because there's so much stuff to do in here. And it's like that's cool, the idea of there being so much stuff to do, but realistically, I'm not going to be able to really enjoy it all.
Anybody,
I make
most people,
a point. Yeah, those are the people that want to hunt and play all of Cyberpunk and get every little thing that you
that's
can do
few
in
people
Cyberpunk.
though. But yeah,
that number compared to the number of actual players who will just finish the story and won't even do like the large majority of these side quests out here. It's a huge.
It never even gets seen or witnessed. Like the work that developer who in the corner of the office put in on that section of the map will never even get seen.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the funniest things that I had seen that I had mentioned like months ago. You know, when there was all the issues of Cyberpunk and stuff like that coming out, is that there was developers that saying that
people haven't even seen their part.
That people have not even come across the shit that I have put on this map.
That's so funny,
yet.
Dude.
And this is it's a big map. And you would think like all of these videos of people who discovered this and discovered that and stuff like that. And dudes like, you haven't even found.
I worked on this and no one's even seen what I worked on yet. Yeah, that's like, so funny,
how
dude.
Would you feel if you had put all of your sweat into making this little section of the game, but because the game has so much in it that like nobody ever finds it, or like one or two people find it and end up enjoying it, but because they don't make YouTube videos, nobody else is gonna see it. You know
what's funny though, bro, is like, is there like this kind of like subconscious gamer, or even just like conditioned like market mentality that we don't think that we're getting our money's worth unless we're getting something big like that, even though the vast majority of us don't even experience all of it. So I'll spend $60 on Cyberpunk and only spend 15 hours in it. But I feel like, no, the game has to be, you know, GTA big for me to feel like I want to spend $60 in this game, even though I'll never even experience like the full game.
Yeah, it almost became like definitely like a bigger is better type of thing.
Yeah, that happened.
Like, oh, this game's got 50 hours of gameplay, and you're like, oh shit,
that's worth
50
it. 50
hours,
here's my money,
just for $60.
And
like,
you spend 15 hours
there.
in it.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you didn't even spend that 60, or I mean, you did spend that 60, but you still got the story left. You know?
Yeah,
like,
I know. I can't tell you how many games.
Way bigger than 60.
I can't tell you how many games I spent like 40 hours in and didn't even see the ending.
Yeah,
I have so many games like that.
And you just stop because it's just like, oh,
enough already. You know? It's like going to the buffet and you fill your plate with a bunch and you start off strong, right? Yeah. Like, oh, I ate all that I ate all that orange chicken, I ate all that beef, but like as you keep going, like, dude, I can't take anymore. You're like, okay, one bite here until like, okay, I'm just done. Yeah. Like whatever you start off as, like you're into it and you're going hard on Valhalla, like that first 10, or Ghost of Tsushima, like that first 10, 15 is like, this is great. And then you're just kind of like sick of it and you're just kind of like forcing yourself through to the end. Yeah. Where like, I totally agree with Shawn. I have had so much fun. Did you feel like you needed Ratchet to be longer than it was? Or did you feel like this was like, I feel satisfied. Like I didn't leave that game thinking I really need more of this.
Yeah, I liked it because you could go in and out of those areas as much as you wanted, and you could search for any and everything in there if you'd like. but you didn't have to. You could literally just go through it, do that story or whatever, and you got everything that was there to offer. You know what I mean? You accumulate a lot just by going on the main story. You know what I mean? If you do like your, very good detective work and you find everything that's there off of the first visit, then cool. But a lot of times you're not going to be able to, just because you don't have the skill or whatever to get over there.
I think Ratchet epitomizes your point you're making. I feel like they did exactly what you're saying game developers should do. They had like these little open worlds, but they're tiny.
Yeah.
And within the tiny world, there's these puzzles, and everything in there, you kind of got to think a little bit to get. But it's not so big and so much, but you're still getting the feeling of exploration. Even though it's tiny, it's like that feeling is still there. Yeah, it's like, okay, it's right there. Let me take 4 or 5 minutes. I feel good about getting there, but it wasn't like this long beat off the track, and now I'm like 10 quests off the main storyline.
Right.
And now I don't care to go back and finish the story at all. Right.
Yeah, the map's like a good size, but the map is here. I can see everything on the map.
And it's tiny enough that I can do it all in a concise amount of time and get the feeling of open world.
Right.
I just think they did a really good job really epitomizing the point you're making. And I felt that way. When I was done playing the game, I didn't feel like, well, gosh, I wish I had more time with this weapon. Or, gosh, I wish I could have killed more enemies with this weapon. I felt very satisfied with, like, every bit that I got. And I was like, I feel like I can be done with this and I can move on and feel like this was perfect. And what was it? A 12 to 15-hour game.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, I really agree with Shawn. I rather than them trying to squeeze more out of us or spend more money to get bigger games, spend less money but make it a little bit great.
Yeah, do a lot to make that little bit spectacular.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you don't have to make all of that stuff.
You don't have to make Witcher 3 every time.
You spreading out miles and miles in between items isn't necessary if you just made it a little bit harder to get that item, but it's literally
sooner
right
to you,
there.
But closer to you. Exactly.
Yeah, it's literally right there. But you needed to do this, or you had to figure this out in order to get there, or something like that. Honestly, I think that a great testament to this is Returnal. There wasn't a lot for Returnal. I mean, 6 biomes or whatever, but the reason they're so big is just because it's been randomly generated.
Right.
You don't know how many you're going to get or whatever, how many rooms or whatnot.
And what items, where they're at and everything.
There's like this little small amount or whatever, and you go from room to room, so it's always something to explore or whatever. They got shit up here, they got shit down there, whatever, you know what I mean? But you got a beeline of like where you can go. You can go off into a couple of areas, but it's like I just got to go one room over, or I teleport over here and then I'm right back on track or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
so it seemed like they fully utilized the rooms and things like that they created to give you that challenge and stuff like that.
I agree.
And there's, it may be like 6 hours of story in there, but there's so much more hours of gameplay just in general. 1, because of the difficulty,
right?
You know what I mean, and the 2, because of the randomness, of how they present it to you. You never know the beaten path, you know what I mean, and then the roguelike aspect of it is, another one. But
that's why I agree. Like that's why I thought like Returnal could have been really, really great. That's why I wish they had just made it where you could save.
Yeah.
Throughout it, because I think you're right. I think the biomes are like just big enough, like they're just meaty enough.
Yeah,
they get to be a problem when you're constantly doing it over. But
if you could have collected a game and then maybe like you have saves, and then anything past that save, like your weapon proficiency or some of the stuff, maybe some of the items or whatever that you get. Like maybe the artifacts or something like that.
Right, carry over or something.
If that stuff reset, but you still have your weapon, so you just have to get you have to keep climbing on your proficiency or something like that. But the world switched up a little bit or whatever.
That helps. That helps absolutely.
Giving some reset options,
right?
But not
some progression level, right?
Whatever,
exactly.
That would be cool. But
that's really my only complaint.
Having to get all of the artifacts, the parasites, the weapons, all of that stuff, the proficiency, all of that back. You know what I mean? It makes it like even more turmoil and whatnot. But if you were able to keep some of that, it would have been, easier to progress through it and whatnot. But so I like we've said 1,000 times, we feel like definitely PlayStation changed once Shawn Layden left the company, And I think that's why we have so many of these dang remakes getting made consistently over for this console. You know, and then just in general, you know, I appreciate the more rare titles that seem like super unique. You know, the new IPs, those things, I appreciate those. And I mean, obviously, you know, you get an RPG, it's gonna have those same type of elements. You know, each RPG is gonna have a lot of the similar things. You know what I mean? But at least a large majority of them don't feel like they're just cloning off of the last one.
I was one question I wanted to ask you.
A first-person shooter, it just feels like you're playing another one
like
of these COD games or something like that.
Just feels like COD.
Or, you know, you get a battle royale. It's like, damn, I might as well just be playing Fortnite or something like that. You know, it's a lot of these games that just seem like some repetitive shit. Like, why did you guys even create a new IP?
Yeah,
you know what I mean, to waste it on this.
This is why, like,
why don't I have a new story, a new character, you know, something else? You know what I mean?
I know,
I'll take a freaking Ghost of Tsushima or any of those type of games because it's something totally new.
Totally,
you're giving me an defiant of an arena battle, you know, first person shooter. Does it have a campaign? Is that campaign totally different from anything I would have ever experienced from Call of Duty?
Yeah, it's like I think that Sony, and really almost all these companies, they do. Because wouldn't you agree, man? Like whenever we watch, this is for me personally. I don't want to speak like for all the gaming community, but whenever I watch, like say Xbox's showcase, right, or Sony showcase at E3, I never get excited when they show me Halo or Forza or Gears because I already know what those games are about. It's when they show me like that new thing.
What is
that Starfield? What is this? When they show me that new thing, that's when I get excited and hyped. Maybe someone gets excited whenever they see the same thing over and over again. But like me personally, I don't.
If you're a big fan of that IP or whatever,
then that's fine. But what excites
or whatever,
right? What excites me more is when I'm watching the show and I go, dude, what was that? That looks really neat. That got me intrigued. I'm going to follow that, right? I'm going to keep track on that. And while there is some of a risk, I think they're underselling that feeling because I do think that that's a pretty big feeling. When you show something new and unique, when they first showed Kenna, that was a brand new IP and we were in love with it. Mm-hmm. I think they're underselling that. There is a lot of power there in new IPs. They get attached to the sequels, right? And sometimes I feel like that's killing the gaming industry. Like, Horizon, you know, Forbidden West does really good, or for Horizon Zero Dawn does really well, and so now we're destined to get Forbidden West, and Sony only wants to work on Forbidden West, and they only want to work on a freaking Last of Us remake. They only want to work on like the next Spider-Man. They only want to work on the things that they know people like, but they're undervaluing, I think, the value of the excitement of something new. And I really do think that's actually more valuable than I think they might give it credit for, in my opinion. And I worry that the game industry, Sony's success with their major IPs can also to some degree be their downfall. Mm-hmm. If they keep doing this Last of Us remake, God of War the next one, everything is just always a remake.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why this new God of War did so good is because it gave you a whole different aspect. Like it showed you a different idea of God of War. It wasn't just a hack and slash. You know what I mean? Another continuation of the story. It was almost like a rebirth. You know, it gave you a whole different style of how to play God of War. Now.
New story, everything was new.
Yeah.
You
just had the character,
just the character,
but it was a whole
and the same
world.
myth. Yeah. That's pretty much it. But it was like all new. Mm-hmm. I agree, man. Like I just think they're undervaluing that.
Or just stop trying to create these killers. You know, stop trying to create this Fortnite killer or this Halo killer or this whatever killer. You know, I'm gonna make the game that's gonna shut down Overwatch and they're gonna play my game instead. You know what I mean? And it's like, just create a whole new thing. You know what I mean?
I agree, man.
There's so many different story based games. They take little aspects from, you know, some of the other ones, but it's an all new original story. And if you love that story, then you're going to love that game. You know
I agree, dude. We're so excited for Stray. I
because
mean,
it's just out of the box.
it's just this is super cool. I'm excited for it.
It's just like, what, you
I
playing
just
as
wish
a
there was
cat?
more of
That don't
that.
look fun. Like,
I
I
kn-
want to play
I
as a cat.
know.
Oh, this bitch got puzzles. Oh, you doing combat too?
You got
Oh, you doing this?
laser beams and
Yeah. It's like,
wow,
okay,
this
where's
is really
this going?
neat.
Like,
Yeah.
let me look more into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's all we got for you guys today. This week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you commented, we appreciate you. If you haven't commented, what are you doing? Do it now.
Smash that like button.
Smash the like button. Smash the subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, go to somebody else's YouTube. Get on their account. Go to our page and have them subscribe. Just grab somebody's phone and be like, hey, let me borrow your shit real quick. Go in there. Boom. Hit subscribe. We appreciate it. Until next week, hopefully we'll hear some news about Mark when he's coming back to the podcast. But yeah, until then, we'll catch you guys later. Deuces.
Peace.
See you.